Hey friends, it's me, Em again, and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all things sinister. If you are interested in true crime, or if you like all things horror related, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That way you can join me for some morbid conversation. And for today's chat, we are actually going to be stepping away from true crime, and we're going to kind of be exploring a place that I have recently read about, recently heard about, and it's just really kind of creepy and macabre, right up our alley, right up my interests, and I hope it interests you too. So, if you've never heard of it before, the Sedlec Ossuary is a Roman Catholic church known as the Church of Bones, and it is located in the Czech Republic, and it is a huge tourist attraction in that area. What makes this church so unique is the fact that it's decorated completely in human bones, and not just a few, a lot. There are more than 40,000 genuine human skeletons that make up the vast interior design of this church. So, how did this church wind up with so many human skeletons inside as part of its decor? Well, that story starts a long time ago, in the year 1278. King Ottokar II of Bohemia had sent the abbot of the Cistercian monastery in Sedlec to Jerusalem. The abbot would return from the Holy Land with a jar of dirt that he claimed was from the ground where Jesus Christ was crucified. So they would end up spreading this dirt all over the cemetery there, which would cause people from all over Central Europe to want to be buried here because this is where the holy dirt was spread. This is where the dirt from Jesus Christ's crucifixion was. So it was a hot place to want to be buried at the time. So after time, the cemetery would end up becoming full, mainly because of Black Death and the Hussite Wars being fought during this time in the 14th century. So the cemetery would end up being max capacity. Around 1400, a church would be built on this site, and it would be serving as an ossuary for this cemetery. And what an ossuary is it's a way to kind of conserve space in burial rituals. And what they would do is your body would be temporarily buried for a couple of years, basically until you could decompose down to a skeletal system. After you were decomposed and you were just bones, a skeleton, your body would be unburied and your bones would be stored in this ossuary, which would take up dramatically less space than like a coffin in the ground. Obviously, coffins are going to remain the same size and take up the same amount of space over time, which is what would make the cemetery become full. An ossuary, a pile of bones, does not take up nearly as much space as what a coffin would do. So once they would be dug up and once they would be stored as bones, then you could bury another person temporarily until you could dig them up and store them as bones, etc., etc. It is a way to save space when you're talking about burying people and having their final resting place. The ossuary would serve as the person's final resting place for their skeletal remains. Now, in the 15th century, that is when the cemetery would actually end up being exhumed, and all the bones were originally stacked up just kind of like in the lower level of the church, in the ossuary part of the church. Nothing extravagant, just stacked up and placed neatly out of the way. It wasn't until 1870 when František Rent would be hired to actually process and arrange the bones, which he did in the style that we see today. He made elaborate and intricate arrangements of bones, including things like chandeliers and family crests. If you ever find yourself in the Czech Republic, you can actually go to the Sedlec Ossuary. And like I said, it's a tourist attraction. You can go in and view all the different skeletal decor. It's about an hour outside of Prague in a very small city named Kutná Hora. It's about an hour train away from Prague, but it's open to the public. It is a popular tourist attraction and it's very reasonably priced. For an adult, it's only about $3.50 to be admitted into the ossuary to take a look around. For children and students, it's actually even cheaper. So it would be a very cheap little excursion if you ever find yourself in the Czech Republic. The Sedlec Ossuary is obviously not the only ossuary in the world and not even the only famous one. For example, there is also St. Bartholomew's Church, which is also known as the Skull Chapel in Poland, but Skull Chapel has only around 21,000 skeletons in its ossuary, which is half of what's located at Sedlec. Because of its size, architecture, and mass amount of actual skeletal remains used, that's what makes Sedlec really world renowned, makes it more well known than other ossuaries. I don't know about you guys. I'm interested in all things macabre and morbid and kind of interesting. And I talked with my husband before about wanting to go on what I would like to call an anything but a beach tour, where I want to go on vacation to weird places just outside of going to like normal beach. I love the ocean, but I want to see some weird shit. I want to see some interesting things. And when this came up on my list, my first thought was, how cool would that be to see? I mean, it's morbid, it's sinister, it's a little bit dark, but so am I. And I just think it would be really cool to go and see this ossuary. It's like I said, it's in a very small town. It's very reasonably priced. Unfortunately, it's in the Czech Republic, so it's not like I could drive there, but I think I'm going to add this to my bucket list. I think this is something that I would like to see at some point in my life. And I don't know. I think it's really cool. I think it's definitely interesting. Definitely a little sinister. People who have gone said that it is pretty calming and pretty relaxing and you know and I can see that. I can see that. It's really cool. And the fact that it has been around unchanged for so long, like hundreds of years, the preservation of it is just astounding to me. The some cool stuff that I ended up reading. The exhumation process of the cemetery was actually headed by a half-blind monk, which of all the people to hire to exhume a cemetery, why would you get the blind guy? I don't know. I think that's I don't know. Maybe he was just looking for a job. I guess they weren't. I don't know. Maybe they were on a time constraint. People were dying, but and if you look at pictures, I'll put pictures of the church on the video. If you look at the church from like the outside, it just looks like a normal like historical Gothic church. There's not a lot of like morbidness, macabreness on the outside of the church. It just looks like a normal, a normal old church. But when you get into the church, that is when you are hit with the overwhelming amount of skeletal remains and the overwhelming amount of skulls and stuff. And it has been frequented in pop culture. Like they've filmed inside this church anytime that they've needed to like make like a Dungeons and Dragons like themed or something like that. It's just kind of cool. Anyway, guys, that was just a real quick one. I usually don't make super short videos, or I try not to make super short videos, but I stumbled across this the other day and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I thought it was just amazing. This video is probably going to be more pictures than actually me and my face, just because there are so many pictures of this church that just it's cooler to look at than my face. You know what I mean? Like this church is so much cooler to look at than my face, and I think it's awesome. But if this is the kind of content that you're into, if you like seeing weird shit like this, dark, macabre shit like this, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and turn on all your post notification bells. That way, when I stumble across something like this, you are the first person notified when I decide to sit down right here and talk about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a quick video. I literally found it last night and I'm recording it today, and maybe I'll have it uploaded tomorrow. I don't know. But until then, as I always say, friends, stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you later. All right?